Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Welcome to the GSMC Football Podcast on the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Ethan Orfe, alongside my good friend, Brice.
Yes, sir. What's up?
Mr. Lewis. Oh, we had football this weekend.
Yes, sir. You thought it was over. It's never over.
Unexpectedly. Well, it wasn't unexpected. We knew it was coming, but unexpectedly, pretty good football, man. It was fun to watch. I enjoyed it. I thought it was entertaining throughout each day, Saturday and Sunday. All four games had something to offer. And I don't know if my expectations might have been met or at least they might have exceeded my expectations for the XFL, to be honest. I thought the production was really, really good. Give me 5 words, in 5 words or less, describe what you felt watching the XFL.
It was new and different.
I think that was like 4, but I'll take it.
It's 5.
It was 5.
Yeah.
It was new and different. All right, explain yourself.
It's just, obviously, the XFL. Obviously, we know about what happened back in 2001 when they tried this, and they tried to do different things at that time. It didn't work. This time they brought it back, and I think obviously it's new just because it's a new league. It's a spring league. It's right after the NFL season, so if you're a football fan, you continue to watch football after the fact. It's also new in the fact that obviously, like I said, we saw a lot of the rule changes and all the different things that they talked about that's different from the NFL and other leagues this past weekend in the games, like the new kickoff rule. Obviously, I think that's as a safe, but also can't be exciting rule, because I think, if you're a special teams coach, you can kind of figure out how you can beat a wall like that and make some big plays. It's different because, obviously it's so much more in depth. You have more sound bites. You're more close to the players. You hear every play call. They interview after, every big play, which is actually hilarious. Because
you can find yourself in some interesting scenarios.
I saw something on social media this past weekend. They were like the XFL. Imagine if you fumbled the game, like you fumbled in on big play of the game in the fourth quarter, and they'll come right up to you afterwards. Like, so how does it feel fumbling the game away? It's just like right on the money. After they just stay away from everybody's like, oh, now we're gonna interview you, or like after that kicker missed a kick and they interviewed him right after that. It's interesting, I think that's extremely interesting. Obviously when it comes to the reporting, obviously some people are kind of mixed. It just depends because it's just how much media do you want involved during the game? But I think having the inside depth of the play calls, also the depth in the replay I think really stood out to me this past weekend as new because we get to see what goes through their mind when they replay and to decide what the ruling is on the field. And it's different because the NFL don't do it. So, and NFL probably wouldn't do it. Obviously, people have conspiracies that the NFL's rigged. That's why they'll never allow a camera in there. Because it's like, well, we know it's a fumble, but, we're going to say it's not a fumble because we don't want them to lose or something like that. Where in the XFL, they're very transparent with the fans, and they're very open with the fans when it comes to all these things. And I think it's a very exciting game. Obviously, the biggest question for them is just, can they be sustainable? So far, they're off to a good start. I think also one difference is that if you notice from the AFF last year to now, the talent in this league, I think, is better than the AFF.
I think that's the thing that really set the tone was that this is football. Like, this seems like football to me. Like, offensive line are not, now granted, for one thing, it was much more of a defensive game than you would think coming in. Like first of all, they have the over-unders and the money lines out there.
Yeah, people were shocked they did that just because it was like, you don't even know who's good yet. So how are you going to make odds and money lines?
Well, I mean, people are going to bet on sports. It's just the bottom line. But I find it funny how they just have the money line just right on the scorecard, like on the board. I'm Yeah. So this is really just for all the gambling guys out there who have nothing else better. This is like for the college basketball gamblers who are like they're knee deep in the game. Like this is how I win. If you saw Uncut Gems, you understand that reference. But yeah, that's how I was like, wow, gambling odds. We have over-unders. We have money lines, and we're having football in the middle of spring. So there's a whole bunch of different stuff. The defense was active almost every play. I feel like that will change in a bit, I think after a few games, as this goes on in the season, offenses will kind of figure things out.
I mean, remember, like they were saying that most of the games, they only had that, 3-week mini camp like earlier.
Yeah.
And then they've been practicing for a week. So they really haven't had in terms of, they've never went through like OTAs and training camp and preseason, and then the playbook. You had time to do reps with the playbook, and boom. A lot of this stuff is new, or it's like they had to learn in a short period of time. But I'm sure the offenses aren't as complicated or as many plays because of that. Now maybe throughout the season they can add stuff in there because it's like, okay, now we're actually having a consistent schedule to learn new stuff. But the season's only 10 weeks long, so plus I think playoffs, which is only 2 weeks. So, I feel like it's something, it works out for everybody, I think, when it comes to, just showcasing what you can do. I think, obviously, this league, I think skill players are really going to be able to show out when it comes to potentially making a team. Because you have to understand, this league ends right before the NFL draft.
Right.
So, after teams fill out their rosters with rookies, then they may be like, okay, let's look at some XFL guys. And you can make a case for yourself in the XFL. I think some people have actually been asking about, would some maybe rookies that aren't projected to go high or maybe projected to be undrafted just go straight to the XFL instead of going to the NFL to maybe play against, I guess, because I remember somebody said the XFL is a half step above college football but a half step below NFL. So you're basically playing at better or around the same talent as like maybe a top SEC school or a top college football school. Or like half a step because these are obviously grown men. They're like more experienced, seasoned, But I think it creates that intrigue there that I feel like players can definitely show out and really make a case for themselves. To then after the season's over, it seems like what, he looked really good. Let's bring him in. Because like I said, these guys are guys who were in the NFL. And then maybe they had injuries or they had some type of other stuff happen. So it just really depends, you know what I'm saying? But do you have – now I know it's early in this week. We don't have one here in the city. But do you have a team maybe you're rooting for?
No, man. I'm like Rob Lowe with the NFL hat in the middle of the crowd. I just have an XFL hat right now. When I woke up Saturday, I went to the store – I got some good snacks to watch the XFL, and I sat there and I watched the first 2 games, and I felt good. This felt right. This felt like this has been a part of my yearly ritual for a long time. It didn't feel out of place. I mean, of course it felt new, but when I'm more excited to watch the XFL than I am the Pro Bowl, that means something to me. I feel like, wow, I feel more excited to watch this than like a random insert your brand like bowl game in the middle of the college football bowl season. Like this felt purposeful. This felt exciting.
And it helped that they were on the big networks.
Yeah, of course. Vince McMahon he put big money around this.
Yeah, because was it? I'm
the AAF.
The AAF.
Yeah.
One of the issues I had is last year I remember seeing on TV, didn't even know it was coming. I didn't even know it existed. I literally was just flipping 2 channels and I saw it on CBS and I was like, huh? When did this get here? So I felt like marketing wasn't good for them. And second, outside of CBS, a lot of the games that I was told were not really on like prime television channels. It was like you had to sometimes search for it, or you had to see it on someone's like lower channel. Like, you know how Fox has Fox, then FS1. A lot of people don't know they have FS2. And obviously FS2 is like in the deep channel range that nobody goes to.
Right.
So the fact that these games are going to be on Fox, ABC, ESPN, FS1, I think that helps because now you have a good number of people who love football who have these channels, and if you really love football, you can tune into it. Obviously, they have some hype, so I would think potentially numbers could go up in terms of viewers. And if they continue to put out a good product like they did for week 1, I think at least for the first year it could be successful. Because like I said, they have a lot of backing and they have a lot of money that's been put into it by Vince and a lot of other people. So, and I think it's if it's an exciting brand of football, I don't see why you would it would fail. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and then like I said, it's a great alternative. Like, you never know. We see Colin Kaepernick in the league next year?
Ooh,
I don't know, because they're kind of strict on like people with protesting and everything. Even though he never did anything illegal, it's just like if we bring you in, you can't do none of that, and he may not be like willing to do that.
Could you imagine? Well, let's take.
I mean, it'll get ratings.
Let's go to break. We'll save that for segment 3. But
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
all right, Brice. So we know what we like so far about the XFL. We think it's a good league so far. It's been a good start. Probably the best start you could have asked for from something like the XFL. What did we not enjoy about the XFL? Or what did you not like? And then, I'll go next.
I mean, it's kind of, for me, I kind of was okay with everything. The only thing I kind of feel like that could potentially just be an issue is the whole, I guess, sideline reporting just consistently in your face, potentially. Just because, I mean, it's like you don't have to always put a microphone in somebody's face after every little thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I could understand if somebody made a big play and it's like, okay, yeah, how you feel. That's different. But I feel like, it just depends on the boundaries and how far they're willing to go with it, I think.
Right.
It's like they had that when I forgot who played in the first game. It was Cardell was the DC Defenders, and who was it? It was, I forgot what their team name was, but I remember the quarterback, Brandon Silvers. Who
did they play?
They played the DC Defenders.
No, that's what I'm saying. The other team, it was the Dragons, like the Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle Dragons, and he got injured at the end of the game, and they actually have like live mic picking up that conversation. So obviously, like, one thing obviously you would hope for is like if somebody like broke their leg, you wouldn't have a live mic and then they're screaming, because then it's just kind of uncomfortable at that point.
I feel like that's kind of like the broadcast team like job, because they'd had some slip ups in the first game.
Yeah, ESPN has some slip ups in their broadcasts.
Yeah, Fox did too. Fox allowed that F-bomb to go across.
Listen, hey, that's okay. We like it. It's real. It's emotion.
The FCC doesn't like that, right?
The FCC doesn't like it.
No, the FCC is like, don't forget about the kids, bro. We got kids watching this.
We tried.
It's Saturday afternoon.
Oh boy, yeah. I feel what you're saying.
Nah, I just think that maybe not everybody needs to be mic'd all the time. Like, everybody is mic'd. Like, everybody, the training staff, the the injury, the medical staff, the head coach, the defensive coordinator.
You can interview a head coach in the middle of a game, bro.
Yeah.
So what made you make that decision? Well, we just felt like I was just like, I'm like, the transparency in this league is crazy.
I really like the coach ones, because sometimes there's there's a lot of coaching decisions in like the last playoffs in the NFL. And like just coaching things that you're just like, what made him do that, or why would they do that?
They answer it, or they try to answer in the press conference. So they give you a short answer. I just feel like it was the best decision.
Yeah,
mid game is like right in the middle, but
then of course there's a caveat to this. I don't know if we need to hear after every major decision that happens in football in the game to go up to the guy who did it and be like, what made you do that? Yesterday. When Marquette King kicked almost like a perfect punt, right? And that guy, he thought the defender or the guy who was receiving it touched it with his leg, so he went after it, but he didn't, and he cost them like somebody getting stuck on the 1 yard line. But instead, they ended up getting like a touchback for 35 yards. And Pat McAfee on the call, he was just like, I'm going to go find that guy who messed up the perfect punt. Like he seemed extremely angry that this happened.
I was shocked that Marquette King was playing. I was like, Marquette, he was just in the NFL. Like he's an all pro punter.
Well, he had some issues, I think, as far as attitude stuff.
I was like, because he's like one of the best punters in the league, and then
he had a really bad year the year before he got out, and it was because I read some stuff on him. They said that where he went, they made him change his whole kicking style, and that's just not something he was fond of.
Well, how did you feel about the broadcast teams for the games? Obviously, they're not always the number one. Obviously,
no, of course. I thought they did a fair enough job. Like the broadcast teams made me think that it was familiar enough. It felt like college. Like the broadcast teams made me feel like I'm watching like a college bowl game that I don't know any of the teams' major players, and it's like at the randomest time in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. But the level of play was closer to NFL than it was college. It felt more pro style than it did college. Mm-hmm. And, there were some big plays, but it wasn't like, guys going like 70 yards every other play. Like, defense was important. Defense was probably more important than offense, clearly, as the, as the lines were all over the place. They had, for total points, the last game of the week, it was 55. Like the over under was 55, and they didn't even get to like 30 or 20.
Because it was a very low scoring game.
Yeah, they got like.
But though you have to admit, though, it's funny because we haven't even seen everybody's best.
No, we haven't.
Because I forgot. I think of that last game, that Dallas versus St. Louis game, both of their starting quarterbacks were actually out, so they had both of them playing their backups, and then there was another game that I think it was the game that P.J. Walker went off in. The quarterback that he was facing, Josh Johnson, was actually supposed to be a starter. He was hurt. So I mean, we haven't even
Jones didn't play.
Yeah, so we haven't even seen people's best quarterback, because some people wonder about the quarterback play in the league. And
well, that's going to be the most important part for this. Like, if the quarterbacks can be good, then this league can skyrocket. But if the quarterbacks are not just like low level developmental guys, but if they're like just arguably not good, like that Aaron Murray, you can't. It's first game, but like it was not.
It's
a good
funny because they said they should go with Eric Flowers now next game.
Really?
Yeah, people think you might go with Eric Flowers. Because it's funny because it's like, it's funny because like, everybody obviously, especially if you went to Georgia, you were a Georgia fan during Aaron Murray's years, you're like, oh, he was so good, he has talent, and then seeing him play the game the way he did, it's just like it must have hurt if you're a Georgia fan watching that performance. Like I remember somebody said, I feel like some of my childhood's kind of messed up now, seeing my Georgia quarterback hero looking like absolute
not goodness.
Yeah, not goodness. Out there on the field.
He did not have his best effort.
Yeah, that was the worst. But it's funny because everybody obviously. I don't know if you ever saw this. Somebody said that the DC Defenders have some of the most annoying fans. Yeah. And somebody was just like, it just literally just started.
I mean, it's right now. It's kind of like, I think one of the things that I'm not really enjoying so far is that it's popular right now because it's the new thing, it's hot, but it's kind of deeply enthralled in meme culture, like the internet meme culture, which can be a positive for you to get your name out there and get more people watching, but also is, there's also a sense of illegitimacy about it because of it. It feels more like memes and like, oh, look at these guys. Every mistake is memed, every like blurb is memed, instead of, trying to take this a little bit seriously. Like, I feel like the AAF took itself seriously, but it just was poorly managed and badly marketed.
I honestly feel like the AAF is just like, if you remember the first week of the season, 3 teams didn't even make over, was it 6 points? Or was it 13? I forgot.
I think
it was a very disappointing offensive show for a lot of teams.
Yeah, and
it was just not good, and it was like you had some stuff that you liked, but it was also very sloppy to me.
Yeah,
and it was just kind of like,
And this felt naturally sloppy. Like, people are it looked like they only practiced offensively like 3 weeks, and they just got out there and played. Like, it felt like a mixture of every level of football, from like high school to college to the NFL. Like, you could see who were in the league at some point, and you could see who were good in college, and you can see who were like the high school guy who kind of made it to college, but that was where their career kind of ended, so to speak. So a lot of different levels of the game displayed in the XFL right now.
It's like when they were talking about Sammy Coates.
Oh yeah, I had him on my fantasy team way back in 2017.
3rd round pick and everything. He just kept getting hurt, and then he just got the league, and now he's there. But it's funny because
Eli Rogers too.
Yeah, it's funny because they were talking about how like it's kind of good. It's funny because somebody was talking about how they said Cordell Jones is like the face of the league, and you just never think like Cordell, like what? Wait, why would Cordell Jones be the face? Like, but it's great because it's like the players who had some type of following after college or in the pros, even though they may have not done anything crazy, they're marketing. Like that's why with the team that Sammy Coates played, they marketed him a lot in that game.
Yeah.
It's Sammy Coates. People know who he is. You can get eyes on the product because of that.
Right, exactly. And, Ohio State fans were really, really about the DC Defenders because, Cardell Jones was out there and he played and he did his thing and he won the game. And obviously he didn't play his best game, but, he did enough to win. And you forget just how humongous that guy is. Like, he's still running the read option and he's like 6'5", 260, like... You think Cam is big? This guy's bigger than Cam. Like, oh my God.
Cardell's pretty big.
Yeah, but let's take another break and we'll keep going with this XFL talk.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, so we talked about what we liked, what we think may be questionable about the XFL thus far. Now it's more so just about the longevity of the league that we see, that we've gotten so far, the product that we have been delivered by Vince McMahon through Fox and ESPN and the like. Where do you see this going, man? Is it more so, is it going to be a flash in the pan, or maybe this is something that actually can be sustainable and last for a little bit? I think they have to secure like a 3-year deal, right? I'm pretty sure this is insured. Like, the AF was never insured, but this is insured. So I don't know exactly what that means for the XFL, but clearly they're putting more money behind it. There's more backing. And there might be a little bit more big names, at least like bigger names that people see. For me, I think that for this league to really stay and be I guess relevant, it has to be not seen as like a feeder system to the NFL. So, and not, I mean, not only. So it's probably going to feed talent back to the NFL at some point. If guys are that good, if the guy is that good, that talented, he'll get picked up by an NFL team. Mm-hmm. I read somewhere that these guys get NFL clauses in their contract to where if an NFL team wants to pick them up, they don't have to finish out the season. They can just go, which is nice.
Which I would think, I think, because obviously it's like, you know, since it's not the NFL, it's not like you're going to sit here and say, we're going to keep you from going, you know?
Yeah,
so
of course.
You're going to, because it's supposed to really help them get back into the league. But I think for longevity, I think they can stay around as long as the purpose of the league is defined and they do what they have to do to put these players in a position to be the most successful. Obviously, one of the keys to me, I think, is this. Is like we talked about how the talent in the league is good. Can they keep that level of talent?
So,
because obviously, if the NFL is going to start purging guys,
well, I don't think they'll purge that fast.
I mean, yeah, not off the bat, but like let's just say there's some success, and then in future years, the NFL's like, okay, maybe you were able to find like 2 players on your team that made the 53-man roster and was able to contribute in some way from the XFL. So you're like, okay, we can find contributors from this team. Or maybe you have that one guy who ends up being a star, because you always have one of those guys who comes from one of these leagues and then they become a star player for you. Right. So, what if that happens, and the league starts kind of taking players? It's like, okay, can you keep the same level of talent up so when you have your league that people are still going to be invested in the league? Right. That's kind of, it helps now because since there was really no other league, all these players were out of the league or backups or whatever, so they could just like, okay, we're just all come to this league to make a case for ourselves, where once it gets some traction behind it, you never know how the players are going to look. That's why they keep bringing up the question about like guys who are coming out of college. Would you allow college players to enter your league? Mm-hmm. Because I think it would be great because like think about, like I said, if you're an undrafted guy, like here's the thing. We may see somebody who's a star in college and we like him, but he's undrafted in the league. So, and he goes to XFL. Well, he still kind of has a following because we know who he is. He just wasn't drafted. And, if they could incorporate that in there, it helps. But also players, obviously, who want to try to get back into the game. Maybe also players who were on the NFL team last year. And then maybe this next coming year, they're not. They can come to the team. It's one of those types of things, really. It's almost like, in a way, they like to say almost, think about, there was an example I saw earlier. They talked about Des Bryant, how he's posting workout videos and all this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But if he went to that league, he could actually show it against somebody.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So then it's just like, okay, now we know he got it. So right. I think it sets up a good precedence for a player or players that want to enter a league outside the league. And if they want to show they can still play, I think the XFL will bring them in. And then if you can show something, something might happen.
I think I guess if the thing is to capture find your identity as a league commodity, right? And you got to make it clear what this is. So like, I think this is something that the MLS had to deal with for a little bit, because right now they're in a big, they've been expanding, like they've been in a big expansion part of their era so far and getting new teams all over the place. As you know, Atlanta got one, Orlando, Minnesota. There's a lot of different teams or a lot of different cities are getting teams in the MLS. And, one of the bigger things that people have said about the MLS, which still does happen from time to time, is that guys from bigger clubs from Europe or, from La Liga or from Premier League, after they get a certain age where they can't play in those high talented, super competitive leagues, they go to the MLS and, they may still want to play, but they're not as, either, they don't have the extra step anymore, like they lost a step, but they still feel like they're skillful enough to still play and they have the drive to still want to play, and that will drive fans to come watch. And, the MLS has succeeded off of those sort of, that sort of tactic, but I don't know if that will work generally for the NFL, only because of, the NFL is kind of like I feel like NBA and NFL are kind of similar as far as when you really see the gap of talent, you can really see it. Like guys who think that they can, like NBA extreme. The level of skill you have to be an NBA regular player, like get 10 minutes a game in the NBA, you are smoking a college guy.
Yeah, because I always say, think about in college basketball how like there's over like 200 teams.
Yeah,
Division I.
Yeah,
and that's about. I mean, if it's like 15 players a team, that's like a pretty big number of players total. And just only think about how their draft's only 60 picks.
Yeah,
and you have all these players who are entering, and it's just there's not enough room for everybody. That's why they have all these other leagues you go to, because it's just like you may have been good in college, but just in compared to your skill set and everything, compared to the pro like NBA league, you can't even make a 15 man roster. You can't even be 15th on the bench. Because it's so tough to crack. That's why they have all these leagues like the G League and the Euro League. And players go over here because they still want to play and they still want to showcase their talent just in case someone wants to pick them up.
And then when you look at like Division I basketball, a guy from Kentucky is destroying a Division II or Division III school. Like, it's just not even close. Like, I'm watching kids, 12-year-olds, do rondo fake Euro step layups. 12 years old, and they look like they're NBA players. Like the skill level, the skill gap of that game is ridiculous. But NFL is similar in, like, say if Drew Brees decides to retire from the NFL, right? And he was like, I still want to play, and he decides to go to the XFL. First, he'll bring ratings, first of all. And that might cripple the league, because if he showcases that, you know, he's an NFL talent, which he is, and he just starts dotting up the league and makes things just not fair, the league is done. Like, nobody will care, because at the end of the day, you want leagues to still be competitive. You don't want to see a blowout every game. Like, no one wants to see Drew Brees be the GOAT of XFL. No one cares about that.
The thing about that, too, is just also the talent that surrounds him. Because he is around guys who he's probably like used to playing with Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I'm saying? Where, you know, when obviously, you know, if that, well, okay, you say Drew Brees, but like, what if it's like a real life situation now, like, you know, Philip Rivers, since it feels like,
I mean, like, people think Philip Rivers is washed up, and if Philip Rivers is like, I'm not washed up, I'm about to go drop 40 a game in the XFL to get back in the league, but what does that really do for, I mean, it'll give ratings to the XFL, but what does that really do? All it means, all people will talk about is, man, Philip Rivers belongs back in the NFL. And I guess that's some aspect to the league, but do you want it to be your main thing? Like, do you want people to be like, oh yeah, this guy belongs back in the NFL, and all it does is circulate back to the NFL? And so this is my main point, what I'm trying to say. You got to find the happy medium, because you're going to have to be associated with the NFL regardless of which. This is not a league competing against the NFL. This is a league that is supplementing the NFL and supplementing NFL fans, or, you know, satiating them with more football content before the draft, in my opinion. And it's also a good opportunity for guys who either couldn't make it to the league or made it to the league and they didn't get a good opportunity, or injuries. They get a second look at on a bigger scale. There's no, you know, scouts, and everybody are either looking at college guys, or, you know, they're not watching games, or they're watching tape from previous games, but they can tune into an XFL game and look at it and see, oh, this guy might be good for our roster, or this guy has some talent you may have to look at. Or someone like Marquette King, who may have been out of the league for not talent reasons, but for other reasons. And you're seeing that, you know, any guy who needs a good special teams guy is looking, this guy still can kick really, really good, right? Like, one of the most athletic kickers we've ever seen, which is just, it feels like an oxymoron to say athletic kicker, but yeah, he is.
I mean, yeah, he legitimately is like a true 11th man on the special teams coverage, because he can run.
Right. And then, you know, it's just being innovative. So, you gotta stay innovative, and you gotta stick to what makes the XFL different. You don't want to get too traditional, but you also don't want to get too wacky with your rules. Like the two passing things where you can make, as long as it's behind the line of scrimmage, you can have two passes. So you can have one, and then you could do another pass up. So, you know, two quarterback lineups, where a guy who might be looked at. So say if you had, I mean, this probably wouldn't happen, but say if Jalen Hurts, imaginary scenario, Jalen Hurts got to the XFL, and you want to run the two quarterback stuff, that would be insane. But
Especially funny you bring up Jalen Hurts. It actually brings up a very good argument that, those quarterbacks, you always have those quarterbacks every year who come to the league and they're like, oh, he can't throw, he's not a quarterback. If they don't get a shot in the NFL, they can just go to XFL and show I can play quarterback. Like Jalen Hurts, if something happened.
Like with the guy out of Ole Miss who graduated but didn't get a shot in the league. Mm-hmm. So now he's trying to do that. He played yesterday and he looked pretty good. I mean, he didn't throw the ball particularly 100% well, but he showed his leg talent for sure, and that he can still play at a pro level, I should say. Because this is I guess that's the bottom line. This is not college. This is not high school. This is not NFL. But it's a pro-ish sort of league. It's professional in its own right, and they just have to make sure they capture the essence of what XFL is and not try to be the NFL. Because if you try to be the NFL, that means you're directly trying to compete with the biggest sporting commodity in the world, I guess, dollars wise, because, the soccer is the biggest, is the world's game. But, for football, America, just money wise, it prints money. It's ridiculous. The college football prints money. Like, you can't compete with that sort of stuff. So, you got to be able to stay in your own lane. I guess that's the challenge for them, is to be able to stay in their own lane and also supplement themselves with quality talent at the same time, to where it doesn't look like, they're suffering from that, Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So we're going to, let's stop right there. And, we go watch next week and see how much our opinions change.
No, yeah, definitely.
But we're going to take a break and then we're going to get into some actual NFL news and topics.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, so getting into some breaking news of, well, first, I guess, the XFL, because while we were coming back, breaking news, Pepper Johnson, defensive coordinator of the LA Wildcats, has been fired. So he has been booted out the door.
After one game, it was not a good game against PJ Walker and the Houston Roughnecks. They let up 37 points and was shredded through the passing game, but after one game, he's been fired, and Los Angeles feels like this is the best move for him to make.
It's kind of unreal. Like, you'd think they give him 2 games, but
he's like, listen, after that performance, we gotta get you out of here. Yeah, so obviously XFL is very explosive league. They make moves all the time, as you can tell, even the day after people get fired.
If you don't like that, you don't like football.
Exactly. News constantly. But yeah, I guess time to get into some NFL talk, man. So what we got on the slate, man? What news we got happening around the league?
Well, we got some Phillip Rivers news that the team, now it's been confirmed that, Los Angeles Chargers will not be bringing him back or interested in re-signing him. So Phillip Rivers will be entering free agency this summer. And, he already moved his family back to Miami, which is interesting, of all places to go. But yeah, he's a free agent, so we'll see if he decides to play or not, and what teams are interested in looking at him at some point, man. So what do you think? Do you think Phillip Rivers should play, or is there a team wanting him, or what do you think the market is for a guy like Phillip Rivers?
I think it depends. I could see a team potentially drafting a guy and saying, okay, well, we don't want to start him right away, so we'll sign Phillip Rivers, and that's how he gets a starting job. Mm-hmm. Because that's obviously a viable option. Veteran, you can learn behind him, stuff like that. The only thing, Phillip, is he has the 3 things you don't want as a quarterback: old, unathletic, and turnover prone. So that's not going to particularly help him. That's why his market's not going to be as great. I mean, there's really no team that you feel like could maybe fill. It feels like there's teams that need quarterbacks, but at the end of the day, every team that also needs a quarterback has a plan, and they have other quarterbacks they want. So Phillip Rivers would be like that plan C or D. Like, oh, we couldn't get our first 3 options. Like, honestly, I wouldn't see Phillip Rivers, maybe getting signed till after the NFL draft. Mm-hmm. Depending on how that goes. Like, because, obviously free agency starts in March, but I just, unless you know that you want him to be your guy to help be that bridge with your new, if you draft a quarterback.
Right.
I don't see how he gets signed. I mean, honestly, at this point, it's crazy to say, but I mean, like, hey, Jameis Winston has more value in this man. So,
because he's younger.
Yeah, but I feel like also, I think a lot of people, and he also Jameis has some athleticism. He can move. And so you're kind of at that point where a lot of GMs in the league would bang the table for 30 than Phillip Rivers. So I think that kind of contributes to why it'll be hard for him to make it on a roster. He may go through a situation where nobody picks him up and then he just has to retire because no one's picking him up. Could he potentially do something where because he's really in a point where since he's so old too, he can't really do the whole stay out the league for 1 year because you're just a year older. And that's not going to make me feel any better about hiring you or bringing you into my team. So, but he could, just in case, a quarterback injury happens. Well, what's out there? Phillip Rivers is out there. It's kind of like that. So I feel like I personally don't think he'll retire this offseason or anything, but I just feel like him being signed, though, I'm kind of leaning towards no right now. Mm-hmm. But it honestly just depends on the plan that a lot of teams have and what they want to do with their quarterback situation moving forward, because clearly he's a short-term option if you do sign him. He's like a year option potentially, or most likely. Then, you only want him to be the guy for the next 3 or 4. So it really just depends on what the team constitutes as the objective at the quarterback position. Do you want to take a flyer on Phillip or not? I mean, obviously people have talked about some fits potentially with the Colts maybe, because obviously everybody's connecting everybody with the Colts. Because Colts are looking to probably upgrade over Jacoby Brissett, but do you really look at Phillip Rivers as an upgrade over Jacoby Brissett? Brissett don't really score a lot of touchdowns, but he doesn't turn the ball over. Rivers may give you touchdowns, but he turns the ball over. So he's like, do you really want that?
I don't think. Why leave Jacoby? What does Indianapolis get out of saying that Jacoby is not our guy? When you just, clearly they didn't go into the season last year thinking that Jacoby was going to start for them, but I don't think he played bad enough to let him go.
He's kind of like, I kind of tell him he's kind of like a Tyrod Taylor. He doesn't really score a lot of touchdowns, but he doesn't turn the ball over either. Because that was the problem. I think for the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season, until the last game, Jacoby Brissett didn't throw a single touchdown pass. You can't have your quarterback going 5 straight games without a touchdown pass.
That's tough to say when that team literally was looking good for quite some time.
Yeah, they were like 6-2.
And then,
and then they fell apart.
I should know. I own 2 of their fantasy players. So we got their best receiver,
who was hurt. T.Y. was hurt most of the year.
T.Y. got hurt almost every other game with some sort of hamstring or some sort of leg injury. Then Marlon Mack went down later on in the season, but even Jacoby Brissett was hurt, and he was not the same. He wasn't able to move out the pocket the same way as he did earlier on. And I just think that at the end of the day, you have to run it back and see what you have and probably get more talent around Jacoby Brissett rather than just assuming that, it's Jacoby. Because you have him on a pretty decent deal, not paying him a lot of money. So just build around this guy, and if it doesn't work, draft. No need to go pay for Jameis Winston. No need to go pay for Phillip Rivers, who arguably probably won't change your franchise any way, maybe worse than Jacoby does. Like, just keep going. Just keep going what you got.
Yeah, I feel what you're saying. I think the problem is that coming into the season, if luck played, everybody expected the Colts to be a playoff team because they had...
And they still could have. It's just injuries all over the place.
I mean, yeah, that too, but it's just I feel like, expectations. I feel like it's a product of expectations. We give you... Because, Colts have one of the best offensive lines in the league. They had Marlon. They had a decent receiving core. They had a better they've had a better than usual defense. So you feel like we have all the places in place. And then they play in the AFC South, which is not a tough conference, really. I mean, remember, Tennessee got in at what? They got into the playoffs. Houston got into the playoffs. But it's not like a division that's just like, wow, we can't win it. There's just teams that are so much more superior than us. And I think this past season, I think they looked at and said, if we're finishing third in our division and we're struggling to beat teams, because remember, they lost to Miami during that stretch. That obviously didn't help. And they lost to some teams they shouldn't have had no business losing to during that stretch. Obviously, we saw what happened on Monday night with the Saints, where they got smacked. I mean, it's just, I feel like the way the season ended, they just kind of like, yeah, we got to do something. Because if we because the problem is you have the pressure of, if we keep Jacoby and don't have another good season, people are like, why didn't you upgrade when you had a chance? And I think it's that pressure. Like, do we wait just to hope it's better, or do we just go ahead, put maybe someone we think is better? Because here's the thing about Jacoby too. I don't think anybody's going to think Jacoby's a franchise quarterback, but he's a good quarterback. In which in the NFL, you usually think you need a franchise quarterback to get somewhere. Right. So, and also, I mean, is he really going to be your future realistically? So you also got to think about that. We need a future. So yeah, they could draft a quarterback and still do it, but also, is there any quarterback in this draft that you like enough for that? I feel like it's
maybe not this draft, but say things go bad, right? Things go really bad. Now you're just gonna go get Trevor Lawrence, or you're gonna go get Justin Fields.
I mean, yeah, you could do it, but I think with the Colts,
rookie contracts,
I think the Colts just
low money. No, don't go and coerce Tom Brady into playing for you in Indianapolis. He's not going there. You think Phillip Rivers just moved his whole family, all 10,000 of his children, to Miami? You think he wants to go play in Indianapolis? No.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely
save your money.
I definitely understand what you're saying. I definitely feel what you're saying. I just feel like they feel like we gotta win because we got too much talent to be losing.
Listen, they can take an off year if they need to.
Say this year was an off year.
Sure, and you run it back with what you had. You get a whole nother off season underneath his belt. Knowing he is the starter, this is not some he was not prepared stuff anymore. Like, he's prepared to be the starter. Everybody else is prepared to get Jacoby right to be the starter. And we already seen if Jacoby has enough practice. We saw it with the Patriots. We saw it with like 4 games in the new season, last season, before things started to become the injury train. I think he can push that team. I think he can get that team to the playoffs because Houston's wishy-washy all the time. Jaguars are up and down. We don't know what they're going to be. And the Titans, they may have gotten there, but hey.
Hey, they're talking about getting rid of Tannehill potentially if they can get an upgrade.
Never know. The Colts still have a chance to go out there and do some things. That's just how I feel about it. But let's take a break and then we can continue.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, so let's get back into more of the news and rumors and all that good stuff for the NFL. No more XFL news, unfortunately, for us. Not many more coach firings going on, but yeah. We do have what else on the list? We saw something about Kenny Britt. I thought that was kind of interesting. He just was got out of court. I think something of that degree. Hold on.
What he get into now, Ethan? What did another player in the offseason get into now?
Well, former wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans, he was pulled over and was in possession for, I believe it was like 50 grams of marijuana, and he it did not look good for him because I think he was out the league at this point.
Yeah, Kenny Brice been out the league for 2 years now, a year and a half maybe.
Yeah, he has not been around much. That's really all it is to that piece of news. I just thought,
and you know what?
He
just ruined his chance in the XFL.
Maybe
because they don't have people
maybe he will
records.
get a chance. Maybe he will get a chance now. But yeah, he was arrested on drug charges in New Jersey. He still lives in Nashville. So, but yeah, he's 31 years old. He was picked in 2009. I actually like Kenny Britt. I had him on a fantasy team at some point.
I mean, some people may feel like he never hit his full ceiling that you thought he could have been.
No,
because he was coming out of records, I believe. But it's just how it is. I guess it's how the cookie crumbles. You get bored when you're not playing football like Antonio Brown. But we'll get into that a little bit later, huh?
Well, I mean, we can go now. I mean, the only thing left is Kenny Britt hasn't played since 2017, so maybe the XFL would have been a nice little thing for him going on.
Yeah.
But Antonio Brown apologizes to the Pittsburgh Steelers franchise, blames emotional outburst on being out of the NFL. Quoted, "I'm really bored." So that is that's from Fox News. But yeah, Antonio Brown put out an apology. He spoke on 93.9 The Fan Thursday after receiving an invitation from the Pittsburgh-based radio station to offer an opportunity to catch up and explain your side of things. He called himself a cancer to the league, and he owes the whole NFL an apology. So clearly Antonio Brown is on this please forgive me tour for his to get it back into the NFL because, the rap thing ain't going. The Instagram live stuff is not helping him in the slightest. He hasn't helped himself for months do anything good, positive for himself. He's always fighting with somebody. He's always coming after the Patriots in Twitter comments, or he's making tweets and posts about the Patriots since they let him go. And it just hasn't looked good for him at all. And you understand that, he was talented and he still might be one of the best wide receivers talent-wise in the league and maybe ever that we've ever seen. But I don't think anybody's taking the chance anymore, man. Like, it's time to move on.
No. And again, if he ain't never got to that legal trouble, could have been to the XFL. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's kind of a point where if he could redeem himself, get some help, tell teams I've gotten help, have proof that he's gotten help, and show that he's made changes to his life, I think someone's going to be willing to take a chance on Antonio Brown again. It's just he has to really go out of his way to do it. You know what I'm saying? He has to do more than you expect to be able to put himself in position to get back into the league. He can't do the bare minimum. He has to go above and beyond because people try to say just do the bare minimum and you struggle to do that.
Right.
So you really got to go above and beyond to really prove to the people around the league that you deserve to be back into the league. And, I think it's interesting that the radio station in Pittsburgh gave him that chance. I remember seeing a picture, I think a week or two ago, about Antonio Brown had posted a picture about the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receivers with the Pittsburgh receivers right in there, and Juju was like, "Unblock me if you want to talk," because I think he said something like helping inspire, motivate, something about helping younger players, and that's why Juju was like, "Unblock me, then let's talk."
Right.
And I think it's one of those types of things where I think people want to help him. It's just, does he want the help? That's always the question in these situations.
Right.
And if he can do that, then Antonio Brown might play again in the league. I don't think he'll. The offseason would kind of be the best time for him if you want to try to play next year. Because, if he can. And even then, somebody may not make a flyer automatically, but then he'll be in the running for like if receiver injuries happen or something happens in the season, and somebody wants to take that flyer.
I don't know, man. It just seems like every time a team gave him a chance, like, so he got to the Raiders, and in retrospect, the Raiders really needed someone like Antonio Brown on their team last season. They could have made a playoff push with him. They may have won a lot more games with him because they weren't a bad team. But because, his outbursts and his outlashes, he had to go out from the Raiders. Mm-hmm. Then he goes on the Patriots. And then it doesn't work out for them. He was on the Bills and he said, no. He said, I'm not doing that. Mm-hmm. The Bills made the playoffs. I mean, that doesn't really mean anything.
And then he had that workout with the Saints. They said, don't bring an entourage, and he bring an entourage.
Like, every single time there's been a chance on Antonio Brown, he has found a way to muck it up. And it's not a good look. I don't think anybody wants to bring him in, no matter the talent at this point, because not only is the talent, not only are we not sure of his mental state and he needs to get help, he's 32 or something like that. He's not a young guy anymore. It isn't like Josh Gordon where you give him 4 times because he's like 27. I don't think I've ever seen Josh Gordon age. They're just always going to say that he's like 28 or something like that, but it's similar things, man. Like, clearly 2 vastly different circumstances, but Antonio Brown got as many chances in the league as Josh Gordon did in years. Josh Gordon kept getting suspended indefinitely for years, and Antonio Brown just kept getting kicked off of teams or getting himself traded off of teams, and it seemed like he would get another chance to work out or hear this, that, and the third. The XFL is not taking him.
Oh yeah, no.
For 2 reasons. One, he'd dominate the league for like 2 games, and then he'd call every person trash on the team, and then probably not go to practice, and then get fired.
He thought his ego was boosted on the NFL. Oh, that boy about to be like
oh man, just Cardell Jones wouldn't get the ball to him, and then all of a sudden it's problems.
If he even thinks about throwing it to the receiver, I'm open.
Right.
I'm open. They're not even real NFL players.
Like, these aren't even guys. Like, I don't know who these guys are. Oh, you want to talk about a league ender? Put him on a team.
Well, the first thing he has to do is, he need to get his agent back, first of all, before he even thinks about doing anything.
His agent wants to get in help, bro. He's
like, I want to represent you, but you got to get help. Get that relationship fixed first and get help and all that, and then we can even do that. That's just step 1. You still got a few more steps to go before you even get considered to get back into actual playing in the league.
Right.
But he has to really, I feel like he really needs to take the time out and try to fix some of the relationships that he kind of messed up with his behavior with certain players.
Right.
Because remember, he would go after players who never really did anything to him. They didn't come at him or anything. He just went after them because he just felt some type of way. Like, obviously, like I said, biggest example is Juju. Juju out here minding his business, and the next thing you know, he's tagged in a post talking about Juju doesn't deserve to be most valuable player on Pittsburgh, and he's just like, and Juju's like, I didn't even do anything. I'm just playing.
And
the game.
I really do think this affected Juju's play. Like, he did not. Well, that and the fact that he got a guy throwing the ball to him called Doug Hodges.
Yeah, and also Juju was hurt. In a few games.
I just don't think he didn't have a decent quarterback throwing the ball all year, and he also had to deal with getting shot at from the sidelines, essentially by his old former teammate and current teammate at the time before he was his former teammate. And this was a guy he looked up to, man. Like, how could you do this to him? That's how I would feel. Like, how could you do this to me? I loved you. That's like some mad, anime portrayals. Like your master just decided to say enough is enough.
Oh,
I'm going to the dark side.
Exactly.
Now.
You found out he was your master, but you taught me everything I knew.
I never liked you. That just seems like what's happening, man. Like the MJ meme just comes in my head. Stop it, man. Get some help. You need some help, man. The league has moved past him at this point. I think it's over, man. No one's going to be this desperate for a wide receiver anymore. His best chance to get back in the league really might have been last season because people were desperate for wide receivers. They needed the edge, needed somebody to, make the defense really pay attention to him. Now everybody's like, oh, the draft is wide receiver galore, free agency, of course, and you never really know. Like, nobody's gonna go and pay Antonio Brown X amount of dollars to just be a headache all over again. And even if he tries to be a perfect saint, quote unquote, that doesn't matter because the storm is coming. It's like Tebow thing. Tebow is a good, wholesome young man. And he still was, people were saying that Tebow is one of the most interesting cases I've seen in modern football.
You wanted him to succeed because he was a nice, wholesome individual.
Yeah, but like somehow
he really couldn't.
All he would do was bring a quarterback controversy that he didn't even, like, he just wanted to be on a team.
Exactly. Because it's like, if a team starts like, put in Tebow.
Yeah. Like, even that, he was on the Patriots for like four games during the preseason, and he played okay. And they cut him, and he didn't even have a quarterback controversy because we all knew Tom Brady was playing.
Oh, yeah. That'd be wild. If Brady has a bad game, he might need to put Tebow in.
Oh,
Bill Belichick, look at
get this guy out of here.
Especially with
imagine
if somebody on his own team, you're cut. You're done. You're finished.
Imagine XFL style interviews in the NFL with Bill Belichick.
It's funny you mentioned that. If MLB ain't working, XFL Tebow, you trying to get back in the league.
No.
You can't even say he would be the best player in the league either. You can't say that.
I don't know if he would be the second worst.
You really don't know. I mean, he's older now. He's 30 now. He's in his 30s now. So yeah, he's older too.
All I can just see is like, that interview that who was it? Nick Saban gave a few years ago. Where it's like, I'm not doing it, so quit asking me. That's how I imagine it. But let's take our last break of the evening.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
All right, so for the sixth segment, Brice thought it would be a really good idea, which I think is a great idea, to break down some divisions, just some review of some divisions in the NFL and how their seasons went and what they can do in the incoming off season and for the future season coming up. We're going to start with the Champions Division, which was the AFC West, which has the Kansas City Chiefs, the Denver Broncos, the Oakland Raiders, and the Los Angeles Chargers, not to be mistaken by the San Diego Chargers. Those do not exist anymore. Actually, the Oakland Raiders also do not exist anymore.
They're the
Las Vegas Raiders. Yeah. So
that's gonna be difficult.
a lot of different names out there now.
They're the moving division. Everybody moves.
All right, so I'm just gonna put this out here. Chiefs gonna have the Super Bowl hangover, and it's not gonna be because they are bad or sloppy. It's gonna be because their division is actually kind of tough, and people have been sleeping on them for too long. The Raiders are going to be decent enough to get to the playoffs next year, and they're gonna go. I'm going for the Raiders, and I'm putting Denver in the wild card spot. There it is. You heard it here first.
Bold predictions.
It's not really bold. I think this can happen for two reasons. Denver is going to find themselves a usable quarterback. Their defense is going to keep them in games, and I believe in Cortland Sutton. That man is the truth.
So wait, you made that first statement, usable. Are you saying you don't believe in Drew Lock?
I think Drew Lock is cool that he listens to Young Jeezy. But that's about as far as how much I like Drew Lock. That is it.
I mean, because he'll probably be the guy, unless they get a top flight like Brady or something. He'll probably be the guy going into next year, based off how the season ended and how well he played. So I don't know if that's going to change how you feel about them making the wild card spot, but
No, I think they can. Well, actually, it's between them and the Chargers. The Chargers kicked themselves in the foot.
it's funny. Somebody has to have a bad year.
Yeah,
it's
somebody.
Who do you think? So I guess what we
Well,
think.
maybe somebody outside, maybe their division is just super competitive, and then
I mean, 3
everybody
teams
else
can make
stinks.
it. So 3 teams can make it from the division.
Yeah, I just think that the Kansas City Chiefs are probably going to make their offense too strong, and they still have Mahomes on a rookie deal.
Yeah, I think they're gonna wait a year before they give him that $200 million.
At 230.
About 150 guarantee.
Yeah, so LA is super talented. Quarterback held them back. Probably not going to bring back Melvin Gordon. So,
Probably not.
Austin Eckler will probably be there.
They'll probably draft a guy.
Yeah, for sure.
I could see them drafting a lot of the replacements. Like Philip Rivers could be a rookie quarterback. Another running back to go with Eckler. We don't know if they're going to bring back Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry is going to demand.
Oh, they're definitely bringing back Hunter Henry.
He's gonna have to
what else do they have?
Well, it depends on what he wants because he's going to want to see what Austin Hooper gets and who's the other tight end? George Kittle. He's going to want to see what they get.
Oh, he's not getting what they're getting.
He feels. I mean,
he's not getting it.
Hey, you'll be surprised, man. That's why free agency is a dangerous game. You can get that money in free agency.
Austin Hooper was on top 5 scoring tight ends.
Yeah.
George Kittle is the best every other week besides Travis Kelce. Mm-hmm. Hunter Henry is cool. He's a really good talent, but he hasn't been able to show much. He stays in and out of the lineup due to injury, and he had Phillip Rivers throwing him the ball for 2 years that didn't look that good.
So what, he gonna get like a smooth $40 million?
He's gonna
Austin. They sound like the tight end is about to get maybe like 70.
Bro, the Atlanta Falcons are about to drop the bank account.
No. Some people think,
Arthur Blank is about to show why his last name is Blank.
They might not have the cap to pay Austin Hooper, which is going to be a shame if we cannot.
Who is some people?
You? No, because it's like we kind of strapped with salary cap, so I'm just like, you're a little nervous.
I wonder why.
You're a little nervous, man.
I wonder why. Somebody named Brad Ryan.
Listen, it's actually funny you said that because he did restructure his deal to free up cap space.
I'm aware.
So now, we got. I don't know if Julio going. We might need to ask Julio, like, hey, you go get some money back. We can keep Austin here.
Yeah, you know. All the times I just think of Julio Jones and money. I just think of the time that he lost like $30,000 in Lake Lanier.
Oh yeah, did he have earrings?
Yeah, he lost an earring in Lake Lanier, and he was going to commission people to go find that earring in Lake Lanier. Like people, if you don't know about Lake Lanier, you don't go in that lake whatsoever for any reason possible. People, it's a very infamous lake of things disappearing, and by things I mean people, and you can't find them.
Going back to the AFC West, man. Like, it's just possible because you don't know because like the Chargers may have their cap for Hunter, but then somebody may be willing to pay more, and he may not get exactly the type of top 3 tight end money, but he might get top 6 tight end money.
I mean, sure, yeah, but top 6
healthy,
and top 3,
he's one of the better tight ends.
Top 3 and top 6 are 2 different leagues of talent. You know,
it honestly depends on how you view it. Honestly,
yeah, it is what it is. It's like, I don't know. The Chargers have talent. I'm sure they'll pay Hunter Henry whatever he wants. But that's why it's not a good decision.
That decision, like, would you pay
Melvin? If they pay him a lot, they're not paying Melvin Gordon, clearly, because they didn't want to pay him beforehand.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the market has changed. No one's getting $90 million as a running back anymore. Zeke ruined it for everybody.
Now, hold on. Now, when Saquon get his deal.
Saquon's not getting it either.
He's getting it.
No,
Saquon,
he's not.
You know the Giants are going to break the bank for Saquon.
They're not going to break the $90 million.
Big year again this year.
He's not going to do that. They're not going to do that.
If this man gets 15 on the ground, 600.
Why pay a running back $90 million when you can spread the wealth around, get a better team, and still keep him because nobody's going to pay him $90 million?
Somebody is going to pay him, though.
No.
Somebody's going to be like, Saquon can change our team.
This is supposed to be about the AFC West. And we're talking about Saquon money. No. It's not happening.
Oh, boy. I mean, but yeah, I guess.
I mean, some dumb team might do it, but that just means they're bad at managing
not
salary cap.
Everybody's like Kansas City where the running back really isn't needed unless in pass-catching situations.
Listen, I don't even think that Derrick Henry's going to get $90 million.
Yeah, I mean, he might get 90.
I don't know. And he'll be the only one I feel deserves it right now.
Listen, with the NFL, the market's always going to go because Derrick Henry's like I'm better than Zeke. I need more than Zeke.
If he gets more than what Zeke got, the league is out of their mind.
And the salary cap's going up, so that's why they probably keep doing it too. Because remember, quarterbacks, it keeps going up. So when Patrick hit 200, now every quarterback go what 200. That's gonna be the problem.
When Melvin Gordon, because they still have to pay Austin Eckler. They can't pay Melvin $90 million, and that's what he wants.
Melvin, yes, he does not deserve that money whatsoever. But and obviously the Todd Gurley thing hurt some people because obviously with him having his injuries and getting paid a lot of money, even though it's less than Zeke got, right? That kind of, you don't want one of those deals. That's why some people are kind of worried about Derrick Henry because he's about to hit 30, and if you give him that type of money, where Zeke, it looks so bad because he's young and his first year he wasn't that great. But we'll see what happens with the Mike McCarthy because for some reason everybody thinks Dallas is the Super Bowl again, but But go ahead and sit back to the AFC West. I mean, if you look at the division as a whole, what team really has a elite running back in the division? If you think that's the division of
elite running back,
they don't. None of the teams in the division really have one. But Philip Lindsay,
no, he's not elite.
Davey Williams, I mean, he's good, but he's not elite.
Okay. I like Josh Jacobs. I think he can be elite.
I mean, he could be there. Some people he should have won Rookie of the Year, but.
No, Josh Jacobs was really good. I like Josh Jacobs. Philip Lindsay's a disappointment, and
I think they'll get back. I think he'll bounce back next year.
I don't know. He got in 8 games 2 years ago is what he acquired all 16, and he was the focal point of the offense.
But I mean, like I said, their division with no running backs. I think they're a division of receivers because there's tons of receivers in the division. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Sutton,
the best two running backs in the league or in their division was on the same team. Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And all of them have, for the most part, up-and-coming tight ends or very good tight ends. Because Broncos, I think, is it Noah Vant?
Vance? Yeah, something
he's
like
up-and-coming tight end. Obviously, Chiefs with Travis Kelce. Chargers with Hunter Henry.
Raiders have, who is
Darren Waller.
Yeah.
Yeah. Top 5 in fantasy points.
Definitely was. I was running the double tight ends with Travis Kelce and Darren Waller. Shout out to them. But let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. This was the GSMC football podcast every Monday that we do. Well, we record it every Monday. It comes out every Tuesday, but that will be the end for this one. So thank you all for listening. Don't forget to review us on any platform that you do choose to listen to us. And don't forget to follow us on our socials. That is our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you all for listening, and see you guys next week. Peace out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.